Lesson 1. Accessing and creating types of data. In this small lesson, I'm going to talk a little bit about the data that is available in SAP ERP and how to access it. This course is only an introduction, but is the basis of understanding for a person who wants to be an SAP consultant or for somebody that is working in SAP but wants to understand better the logic that the system works with. In this lesson, we're gonna navigate to the configuration data. I'm gonna show you where to go and to see how the master data and transactional data is configured. We're gonna access some master data and we will see some transactional data. In SAP ERP system, we have three types of data. First, we have the configuration data, then we have the master data, and then we have the transactional data. First one, the configuration data, it's called as one-time data. And this is because this configuration part, it's done at the beginning. So first, when you want to implement SAP ERP, you are configuring the master data that is done once at the beginning. That one can change also, but it rarely changes. So how it is configured from the beginning, this is how it will carry on later. Second of all, we have the master data. This is called the slow moving data because this can change. Sometimes the business changes, you can adapt the master data with the business changes, but it can happen 2-3 times a year maybe. And then the transactional data is the data that is created each day. So the business runs with different types of transactions. On a daily basis, you can have tens of or hundreds of transactional data created. This can be in form of production orders. This can be in form of sales orders or purchase orders. But we will see this later. In your life of SAP consultant, you will work a lot with the screen. This is called the SPRO customizing. Basically, here you can configure everything in SAP ERP. This is the place where you can configure processes, or you can configure also master data. I will go a little bit later into the system and show you exactly where you can configure master data. As I was saying, the master data, this is stored in tables. They say that only in SAP ERP we have more than 40,000 tables. So some of these tables store master data. The most important master data that we use in production is the material master data, the work center master data, the bill of material master data, and the routing master data. The material master data contains all the information that is related to one material, because one material can be purchased in case it is semi-finished good or raw material. It can be sold, it can be produced, it's relevant for accounting, for costing. So all this information is stored in different views in the material master. The work center master data contains all the information and the data related to let's say to a certain machine or to a certain person that makes a certain activity. This information that is contained is, for example, regarding the capacity that this work center has and the utilization rate that it has. The bill of material contains all the components that are relevant for production of a finished product. So here we can have raw materials, here we can have sub-assemblies or semi-finished goods. The routing represents the sequence of work centers that has to be followed in order to obtain the finished product. Here in the routing, besides the sequence, we also have the components from the bill of material that are assigned to each operation. So, for example, one raw material from the bill of material can be assigned to first operation. Then, after the operation is done, we have a semi-finished good that is going to the second operation. Here, the semi-finished good with another component from the bill of material can be processed in order to obtain another semi-finished product that goes to the next work center. And in that way, we can obtain the finished product by following the routing. This is where we can see the main transactional data that are used in SAP ERP. We have a sales order. This is, first of all, the most important because usually the production process or the purchasing process, it is triggered by the customer's demand. You can have the sales order now that can trigger a production process, that's called make to order, or you can have the sales order later and you can produce now, that's called make to stock. So basically the sales order delivers the finished good to the customer. The production order uses all the raw materials that are purchased based on the purchase order, and it's processing them in order to obtain the finished goods. So now let's go to the SAP system and see live what's happening. So as I was saying, the transaction SPRO, here we can see all the customizing options. For example, we can have here on the sales and distribution menu, we can configure the master data that is relevant in sales and distribution. If we go down here on the materials management, we can configure the master data that it's used in purchasing, like for example the material types. And in our case, because we are on the production course, we can see here the main master data that can be configured. We can have here the bill of material, we can have the work center, which is the machine, we can have the execution steps and the routing. This is just an overview. I just want to show you where you can do all these things. But because we are in the beginning course, we will not go into so much detail now into this. If you want to go to the main menu, you should use the transaction /n. And this brings you to the main menu. So let's see, for example, how a material master looks like. We can navigate from logistics. Then we can go in the production. And here we can go in master data. Okay, first of all, here we have the material master. The options that we have here are for creating a material. Then after it's created, we can change it, or after we change it, we can display it. In an organization, this depends very much on the profile that each user has. There can be users that have the right to create master data. That can be users that can change, or most of the users they have only the display authorization, just to see but not modify. Let's display a material. The MM03 is the transaction for displaying a material. Usually the SAP notation, it's we have 01 for creation, 02 for changing, and 03 for displaying. In our case here, MM01 is for creating a material, MM02 is for changing, and MM03 is for displaying. We will now display a material that I have created. It's called T-F204. As we can see here, there are different views. Okay, I'm going to select them all. So that's the plant 1000. Here we have the organizational levels. And this is the trigger for the next lesson. The organizational levels in SAP ERP. First of all, we have the client level. So the client level is the highest hierarchy. Here we have the data that is available on the client level. For example, if we have different plants, we have different production plants. The same material can be manufactured in all the plants, but that means that there is information like the material description or like the basic unit of measure. And this information is relevant cross plants on all the plants, but there is also information that is relevant for a specific plant. For example, here, if we go to the MRP views, this represents the settings that are relevant for the planning. Okay, we can see here that this information here, it's on the plant level. So on plant 1000 we can have all this information, but on plant 2000 we can have different information because it is another plant, it's another factory, and maybe the planning is done different there than is done here. So these MRP screens, these are all relevant for planning. Here we have, for example, the procurement type. Here E means that this material is produced in-house. Okay, so that means that this material needs a routing and a bomb. If it's F, that means that we are talking about a material that is purchased from outside, from different vendors. So this is not produced, but it's purchased. Or we can have materials that are both. They can be procured, but they can be also produced. This is often the case where you have a customer that is placing a big order, and in case that you don't have enough capacity for this order to be delivered in time, then maybe you can purchase some of the goods from another vendor in order to deliver the order in time. The scenarios can be different. I just gave a couple of examples. Okay, this work scheduling screen here, this is relevant for the production. Here we have the production scheduling profile. I will not go so much into all these small fields. I just wanted to give you a grasp about the material master and how it is managed. We can also have here the sales view. This is on the organizational level 1000 sales organization. Let's see what sales organization we have maintained here. Okay, we can have this one. So the information on the sales view is done based on different sales organizations. This is something more specific to the sales and distribution part. Okay, we have the sales view 1, the sales view 2, which contains different information about that are relevant for the sales. Anyway, that's the material. So that's the material master concept. We can go now down a little bit to see the bill of material. How does this look like? Okay, let's take a material boom. As I was saying, 1 it's used for creation, 2 it's used for changing, and 3 it's used for displaying. So let's display a BOM that it's already created. So we have our material, which is a finished product. We have our plant, 1000, and the boom usage. The boom usage in this case is 1. This boom can be used in different applications. Okay, let's see all the applications that the boom usage is used for. So 1, it's for production. It means that we have a bill of material that it's used in production. 2, it's for engineering design. That means we are talking about a bill of material that it's created. It's not yet released for production, but it's still in the design phase. Then again, we can have the plan maintenance view. We can have the sales and distribution BOM. This is the case, for example, when you are selling a kit. Okay, you are taking 1, 2, 3 products. Okay, and you are selling them all together. Okay, so in that case, you can have a sales and distribution boom, and so on. But in our case now, we will use only the production boom. So these are all the components. Basically, we have 6 components, from which we have these 4 that are materials all, and the last component basically is the drawing. So this is the assembly drawing that is coming from the engineering department. So this basically has the item and the quantity. So if we go here on this material, this is the item level. But let's go on the header level of the finished product. Okay, we can see here that the base quantity is 1. It's 1 piece. And this is very important because all the quantities of the BOM components, they are relating to the base quantity of the finished product. So that means that in order to produce 1 piece of pump precision 102, I need 1 casing, I need 1 flywheel, I need 1 hollow shaft, and so on. But this also here have a check mark here. This means that this is an assembly. So this is a semi-finished product that has also components. So for example, this one, if we select here the sub-assembly and double click on this tick, it will tell us that here we have 3 raw materials. So these 3 raw materials are used for the first component in the BOM of the finished product. We will go later into more details about this. Let's now see also routing. Okay, so that was the bill of material. Okay, let's see a work center. But first the routing. Routing, let's go to a standard routing, also display. So we want to display the routing of this material. Here we have different routing alternatives. We will go later on this. Now I'm going to just go to the first routing. So this routing is telling us that we have 6 operations. We have 6 operations and 6 work centers. So these are all work centers. But here we see here the base quantity. And this base quantity here is very important because we have some processing time. times. For example, here is telling me that on this first operation, for one piece, I have 0 time for setup, 0 time for machine, but I have 2 minutes for the labor. So, in that case, if the customer will give us an order of 10 pieces, it means that only on the first operation we're gonna have a labor of 20 minutes. And the same here, the same principle. So that's the routing. Also, what is important is that all the components from the bill of material are allocated to the routing operations. In this case, we see that all the components are allocated to the first operation. This is how the system behaves. In the case that you don't make specific allocations of bill of material components to specific operations in the routing, then by default the system will allocate them all to the first operation. And finally, we took a look on the material master, we took a look on the BOM, on the bill of material, we done the same with the routing, but then let's take a look also on the work center. So by double click here in the routing, we can jump directly to the work center. So here we see that we have different views that store different information. For example, here we have a work center category. And this actually tells us what kind of work center is this. Is this a machine? Is this a group of machines? Or it is a labor. That means that a person stays there and it's performing an activity. Okay. Here we have capacities. This is very important in a routing because in the capacities we are storing what kind of capacity has the machine per one day, let's say in terms of hours, and what's the available capacity. So here, if we go here inside, okay, I'm sorry, what's the capacity utilization? So this means that this work center it's used 100%, and we have two individual capacities. So that means that there are two persons working in the same time, full time. As we see, the activity, the capacity of the work center starts in the morning at 7 o'clock. It's finished at 3 o'clock. But the workers have also a break of 1 hour. So that means the operating time is 7 hours per worker, and based on the number of individual capacities too, it means that the total capacity is 14 hours. In all these objects of master data, we will go later into more details. But now, for the purpose of this lesson, I think you understood what is the master data that it is in production, you've understood how to create it and where to go to display it. And based on this foundation, we will build more information and the complexity will grow. But you will understand it all because we are starting from the basic and we go to more complex.